I would say that the number one thing when we're talking to manufacturers is that most of them are operating with poor legal advice. And we've taken this through our legal review, and I'm not giving legal advice. But here's what I will tell you. If you need brain surgery, right? We all care about brains, or at least our own brains. Are you going to go to your GP or an urgent care clinic? No, you're going to go to a neurosurgeon, aren't you? Law is huge, it's complex, it is mushrooming in terms of the complexity, in terms of what governments have been doing. It's crazy. If you're general counsel and you're a generalist attorney, you are almost by definition completely out of step with what's going on in the legal environment with respect to pricing. You need to understand, and now I'm going to give you two terms because this is being recorded, both of which are in the white paper. The first is what's called lawful price signaling. Lawful price signaling. And the second thing is resale price agreements. A manufacturer today in a B2B environment, when it's done properly with the proper legal environment, can have significant influence on controlling what the resale price is to the end user. There have been major changes in major case law and regulatory changes in the last 5 years, and I'm not giving legal advice. I'm saying that if you have general counsel and you're a manufacturer, you need to get your general counsel to go sit down and talk to somebody, a legal firm that specializes in pricing practices. Because if you don't, you are competing with a bad set of rules, and the people that know the new rules are going to probably end up kicking your butt. That's the first thing I'll say. Second thing. You've got to automate this process if you're a manufacturer. I have global manufacturers that are sending out PDF forms that have to be rip and re-entered, which creates another whole set of orders as people transcribe and do all the other stuff. By the way, there's a lot of distributors, smart distributors, have built automatic. I'm chairman of a not in this industry, an electronic assembly distributor, and we've actually gone out and spent money to actually read all their PDFs so it gets input automatically. But there are manufacturers still doing PDFs instead of doing standard EDI transactions. I mean, EDI transactions are 40 years old, boys and girls. I mean, it's silly. And there are manufacturers in this industry that have actually taken out 98, remember I said there's two parts? There's the SPA creation, right? That's a whole different function than SPA administration. On the administration side, they've taken out 98% of the administration overhead, and everything is what we call loop processing. You familiar with the term? LOOP, light out order processing. Nobody has to touch anything. It's already in this industry with names that you would all know. There are distributors. And by the way, those distributors aren't going to sit here bragging about it because everybody is saying that's competitive advantage. That's money I don't have to spend that you guys do. Why would I share that? I invested money in software, getting aligned with my suppliers. I got all this right. Why do I want to share it? So the industry, we will continue to talk about standardizing the industry. It's a great discussion. It's an endless discussion. It's like solving world hunger, getting the Israelis and Palestinians back together. But they invested in creating competitive advantage. They're never going to give that up. Sorry, I have a whole Dennis Miller routine. Since I am on video, I am going to be a little bit better and not do it. There's another thing, and this one is probably harder to understand than the bad legal advice. This whole idea of acknowledging emotion. And I talked about these guys that play games with distributors. I'm going to make this process intentionally complex because they'll give up, and that's extra money I get. There's an old joke. It says, why does a Navy SEAL carry a knife in shark-infested waters? And it's to gut cut their buddy when the sharks come so they can get away. And that's the exact same practice that manufacturer's going through, right? They're treating distributors as customers. They're not treating them as channel partners. At some point, it's going to bite them in the butt, I think, right? Nothing lasts forever. Every king has his reign, and then it's over. But part of this emotion is a question about fairness. And making us prove everything, here's the issue. Every manufacturer is dealing with distributors that they should shoot. But they don't want to give up the share because the other distributors in the market say, I'll pick that up, but no distributor wants to guarantee that volume. So most manufacturers aren't going to shoot these distributors. But they're a pain in their butt. But they say, well, we need to treat everybody the same. No, you don't. Robinson-Patman, which is the guiding principle in terms of the legal environment, you can actually download it on Google and go to the executive summary, and there are 4 exceptions in the executive summary that clearly allow you to charge different prices to different distributors and different practices, and you can do that all day and you can do that all night. Maybe that goes back to the bad legal advice. But if you've got a couple of distributors that are really abusing the system, kick their butt. Don't kick every other distributor's butt. And that is, as a researcher, I was surprised at how much of that was still going on. That was probably one of the real surprises we had. Because I know there are some, but I thought that the practice had pretty much gone away. It was more widespread than I thought it was, which was a disappointment. And number 4, what we basically have done as an industry, think about, and we're going to do this from a distributor point of view and take it to the manufacturer. The bigger the PO, the lower the gross margin. I'm bidding a big project. Well, most of this is direct. You can make tons of money at 7%. You know, all we got to do is handle the paper. Of course, you forget the 30-60 never dating terms and the chargebacks and everything else, but we have really low margin. And the guys coming in on the counter, well, yeah, they appreciate our value-added selling. I can make 35% on those guys. I'm making that a bit extreme, but everybody understands what I'm talking about. Manufacturers tend to give discounts to distributors based on the distributors. There's a technical term for this in channel design called takeaway power. I've got a big global distributor. They own 15 of my distributors. I don't like it, but they have a lot of takeaway power. And they come to me and say, we're going to have strategic alignment. What does that mean? That means there's 4 different guys that make this product, and we're going to make one our favorite. We want you to be the favorite, so kiss my ring, don't get my finger wet. Give me the better price. I'm just making this up. I'm sure none of this actually happens in this industry. But takeaway power is a poor proxy. If you think about it, and if you think about a channel, what you really want to do is there's a manufacturer, there's a bunch of distributors. Those distributors are serving a bunch of end users in multiple markets. There's another manufacturer with a different set of distributors serving the same guys. Everybody with me on my picture? Well, let's just call one Crips. Let's call the other one Bloods. Just have 2 names. The goal is that the Crips can beat the Bloods, or the Bloods can beat the Crips. And the idea is not, beating the crap out of each other all the time. How can that channel get aligned and perform effectively and fundamentally, from a manufacturer's point of view, get high sustainable market share? And I want my distributors to get a high enough financial return that they can afford to invest to grow my brand. There's all kinds of economics. Go take a class in channel design if you don't understand it. We teach that at UID as well. I teach that class. But for the distributor that stocks less, whines more, expects the manufacturer to do all the stocking, they expect the manufacturer to do all the technical support. Their whole idea of inventory management is stock rotations and returns. Why do you treat those people the same way as those people that are investing to grow your business? Those distributors that are aligned around you instead of carrying a whole bunch of competing products. And there have been several examples in this industry where manufacturers, I'm not going to name names again, where manufacturers have actually given distributors preferential terms, conditions, and pricing for not carrying competing products in target product areas. And by the way, outside of this industry, that is extremely common. So are functional discounts, And as an industry, let me put it this way. We have taught the pricing course, we teach pricing at Texas A&M, at Purdue, and lots of other places. And this industry is not used as the benchmark for how to do pricing. I'll just leave it at that. But that says that there's a lot of opportunities. You know, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. There's a lot of things we can see in other industries. And one of the things that manufacturers need to do is if you have an aligned distributor, there should be a difference. Notice this green comment from a major independent distributor. Yep, we're aligned. They give us a lower end-of-stock price, but that doesn't do us any good at all if everything's on SPA. Just saying. Now, last but not least, most manufacturers do a horrible job with their own pricing practices. Most. Some are Star Wars. Some I actually use, when we're talking about pricing at a university level, we use some of the two of the manufacturers in this industry. But it's all about analytics. It's not about stories. And discriminating and making sure that there's a pricing strategy and that there's a product life cycle. And even if you go back to the old BCG portfolio model, right, there's some product lines you're late life cycle, you're harvesting, some you're investing in. Every time we do a pricing project for a manufacturer, I will leave you with this and then give you the bottom line. We always end up having what we call in the consulting business an MC, a meaningful conversation with the CFO. Because the CFO feels that accounting is my turf, it's a magic science, accounting is an art, and we peanut butter costs in terms of how we allocate production costs. And by the way, there's tons of research on this. McKinsey's got a whole series on this in terms of life cycle pricing. And we misprice things because of the convenience of peanut butter allocation of absorption costs. And if your manufacturer really wants to get focused on market-based pricing and trying to do what's right, one of the things that's always broken is their actual cost calculation. Everybody takes that as a given because manufacturers are much more siloed than distributors. Well, that's the finance guys. You can't change that. If you try to change that, somebody's going to pull off your arm and beat you with the wet end. You need to change that. And there's science, and they're doing what's easy, not what's right. Now, punchline, and I'll set you guys free. And this is obviously, if you were thinking we were going to have some big discussion about let's all get together and do 3 verses of Kumbaya and standardize the industry, I hope you realize that's nothing like what came out of the research. Now, our public voice will also be saying let's all do the Kumbaya, but this is about how do you create competitive advantage. NAED's role is to mark out in research what's working and what's not working, creating conversation. They can't help one distributor over another, but we can make these things visible, and then you guys get to make your own intelligent decisions. Here's how you can decide to do the math. I want you to take a test, and I want you to know, are you part of the solution or are you part of the problem? And I don't care if you're a manufacturer or distributor. And what you do, here's how you take the test. Are my SPA pricing administration and SPA pricing discovery practices on par with my best trading partner? In other words, am I as good as they are, right? Remember, everything's a bell curve. Well, how do you find out? If you're on par with your best trading partner, you're part of the solution, you're not part of the problem. Don't worry about this, you wasted your time. How do you find out? Go talk to AD, go talk to IMARC, go talk to NAED, and just say, hey, who can I talk to? Right? The AD and IMARC is probably what most of the folks have done since we started to go through these discussions. Give me somebody that's already best in class, and you go talk to them. Right? One relationship gets you access to another. Right? It's like LinkedIn, but industry specific. If you're on par with them, you're good. If you're not, take a look at what do I have to do in terms of software or people or a consultant, or for most of you, if you haven't centralized your SPA administration, there's no point even starting. That's the ante to play. Well, I can't change anything. Well, you're duct taped to the wall, just sit around and, you know. I always decided when I was terminally ill I was going to take up cheap bourbon and cigarettes. So, you know. Here's how you do the math. If you're not on par with your best partner, figure out what it's going to cost, right? I got some disruption in organization, I got to hire 2 people, I got to buy some software. Add it all up. It's just like a capital investment. I'm going to go buy a forklift. Then start to figure out what the cost is and think about the margin and benefits and talk to that trading partner about that. So now all of a sudden I've got the math and I know what the cost is, I know what the benefits are and what these changes are, and then you can make an economic decision. Some of you might decide, right? I'm 66. My entrepreneurial fire in the belly can be cured by Tagamints, right? I'm very happy with where my business is right now. It's all really, really great for me. If you're sort of in my same generation and you've already figured out I'm going to sell it to one of the big consolidators and I'm putting lipstick on the pig and life looks good, the dumbest thing in the world you can do is go fix this problem. If you're in it for the long run and you say I'm playing this game to win instead of playing it not to lose, then maybe it's worth going to shoot that senior sales guy that's a pain in the butt and go change it. I mean, this is not like buying another company. It's not that scale of investment. 3 ideas I'll leave you with about the money, because again, I like the money. And if you think about it, these are the things in red are the things that were probably the surprise that we had as researchers. Right? Because as I said, we had an unfair advantage because we've been working in this industry for 30 years. We were surprised by the amount of money on the left-hand side of the curve. There are, and let me be very specific about that. There are some really, really big things that go down that the distributors say, you know what, my manufacturer won't want to play, when in fact the manufacturer would play. And you just need, and you can't let salespeople do this. This is like taking your phaser, right? Remember Captain Kirk in Star Trek? We will kill no life form. You're taking your phaser, you're turning it all the way up to kill and breaking off the knob. You're going to say, there's some really big things out there I want to go get, and I'm going to talk to my manufacturer about it before we even go chase them, and we're going to do it jointly and go figure out how we can get it. We were surprised, because there were 3 of us doing this work, Mike Emerson, Steve Dice, and myself. And we were surprised by how many of those things were out there. It was more than we thought. Second thing, and I know I've hammered on this. If you're a distributor, the single most valuable thing that can happen to you is whoever's managing the pricing at your key supplier is calling you, asking you for trends and insights, and you're able to give them data. And you give them real data. And it's kind of like, and I'm not going to go through what a Johari window is, but if you're interested, it's spelled Johari. It's an interpersonal communications window. And by being that open, you both discover things that were not known to either of you before, and that knowledge creates competitive advantage. We didn't appreciate, as consultants working in the industry, because when you're working with a client, separating the spot creation and spot administration doesn't matter, because if I'm working with one manufacturer, they're already all their distributors are standardized. They're all doing it the same way, so we never looked at it as an industry. But there are literally people that have no issues on the administration side that are in this industry today. Some of them are here at this meeting, and I'd be willing to bet you that if you go ask them, do you have any issues with spot administration? They will lie. Oh, it's a pain in the butt. Because they spent the money and they're getting a return. So what's the punchline on this? This is about competitive advantage. There's always going to be a huge difference between the public voice and what you're going to see in the magazines and what's going on. And what NAED did with the CAP Council is they took the competitive practices. We documented those. We put it through legal review so everybody's wearing a white hat. And we're making it very clear. Why do we make it clear? We're not making any recommendation to anybody. We're just saying some people are doing these things and here are the results. The idea for you by being a part of the association is that you get to actually get the benefit of that knowledge so that you have the facts for an informed decision-making process on your own. And that's essentially all this is. Eric and I were talking this morning. We said good research creates industry conversation. I will tell you, this is the third one of these things that we've done. And there have been people on manufacturers and distributors that have been upset with this in both the prior ones. And this is not about groupthink or anything else. It's just we're creating conversation. The research is there. The methodology is marked out in the paper. NAED's put all these other, virtually everything you need to sit down with the trading partner to figure out how to do this, you can download for free on the website because you're an NAED member. And with that, I'm 3 minutes early. Am I good or what? So it's always good to be at the front of the food line.